Welcome back to Goldenridge. Today we're really back this time and leaving the mountains behind to head down to the bay to start filling out the rim of our region as we set our sights on Southern California. So let's get to work. All right, and here we are back in Goldenridge. I know things have slowed down a little bit over the last couple of weeks or month, and I'm sorry about that. Things got a little crazy between work and some travel and, stuff. So just so you know, we're not going anywhere. The channel's not done. I will be doing lots more stuff, so don't worry about any of that. Just, stuff gets in the way, but I have missed making videos and it's been a lot of fun. So I'm going to try to get back to as regular once, twice a week at least, as I've been doing. But yeah, just thanks for joining me again. And here we are, just in the bay outside of our major city here. We spent the last couple episodes up in the mountains, with a national park and kind of a mining town and a small mountain town and a trailer park and some trains and all that kind of stuff. And there's still more to do up there. I want to do kind of a golf community out in that area next to the train, and kind of some dispersed kind of, nicer, larger ranch homes and all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to dip back into the city and some urban stuff and just kind of fill out the rest of this little bay area here that we have. So I want to finish up this kind of Highland Gardens area here and kind of start moving into here so we can start looking at our Southern California region sooner rather than later. We've been talking about it for a long time, and I think we're getting real close. Lots of people have been talking about airports, lots of comments about airports. There will be an airport. I'm super excited to figure out a fun way to do that. Probably somewhere in this area. We might terraform this a little bit, but yeah, somewhere in there we'll figure that out. But for now, I want to take a look at some stuff going on over here. So I think the first thing I want to look at is just down here real quick. This is going to not be that crazy, but I want to get a train station in here. I know we have one here, but this is a kind of, fairly local regional type train. So I think having a train stop for these people who live here, makes a lot of sense. I almost feel like we're maybe missing a train station. Well, now that I say it, we're not maybe missing a train station. We're definitely missing a train station in here for this entire neighborhood. So maybe that's something we can look into too. But for the moment, let's start here. And I was looking at this stuff the other day, just thinking about what we wanted to do here. And is it this? No. I forget which train station I had. Oh, no, it was in the more trains area, I think. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. It was this one. So this is definitely the one I want to use. We'll get, so we have a bypass track, or we'll at least build off of, next to that. I think the question is, do we want this on our main road, or do we want to push it back and kind of give it a little outlet? And I think we're going to do that. I think we're going to move this kind of right around here, get rid of some of these trees so that nothing is kind of clipping through. And then we're going to give this, let's see if we can fit, maybe we just do a 1-lane road. We could fit the 2-lane road, but I feel like it might make a little more sense to just get, sometimes you see these, this is an extreme example, but the way that airports, you kind of can go into them one way. Obviously a local train station does not have the kind of traffic that an airport does, but what I'm getting at is I don't think it's insane to just do a one-way road for those folks. And then train tracks, get our non-electrified tracks in here, and let's use a complex curb to kind of go like that. and get that out going there. And another, actually, let's take this one in here, and then we'll have this guy kind of going out like that. So yeah, I think that's gonna work pretty good. Let's make a few little tweaks to this. It's kind of a weird angle. Let's even pull this away just a little bit, and we'll round that out a little bit, and we can pull this down, and I'm sure that's not messed up everything else, but that's how it goes. All right, so that's looking good. Let's see, I guess we might as well pull our cargo passenger rail line tool. I think we can grab that and just should be just able to pull that in, I think. Yes. Yep. Great. There we go. So now we have our same commuter line that runs through here, through Bridgehead. Will now also stop at our Highland Gardens station. Let's make sure our neighborhood is, or our district area, whatever, is covering that. So that's all good. And then now I want to go through, and these people have this nice kind of suburban area. They got a great view of the city. I mean, if you're not going to live in the city, that's not a bad place to be. I mean, the refinery is a little much, but you can just kind of see downtown, and you're sitting here on the bay, nice view of the bridge. I mean, this is a pretty nice, you're close to the mountains, you're close to the highway that'll take you over to Colorado. So this is a nice place. I would, it's a little suburban-y for me, but location-wise, kind of hard to beat. But they are going to need some things. So for things, I think let's look at some commercial and some maybe mid-ish residentially stuff. But mostly commercial, I think, and maybe a little smidge of industry, just some small stuff. So let's see. I was going to say, I mean, you feel like this is the kind of place you see car dealerships, but I almost feel like that makes a little more sense, especially I don't want like that fancy kind. I think a cafe is probably a good thing. Some food stuff. I think we're going to stick to southwest and northwest. Probably not or northeast. Not the northeast is a little too kind of, brick and run downy. I think this is going to be a little more suburban, like I said. So we'll get one of these kind of nice grocery stores, kind of classic looking grocery stores in. Let's see what else. Get some storage units kind of on this train side. This is really one of those kind of classic like strips of just auto shops and like I said, car dealerships and retail mattress stores, that kind of thing. So let's see, we can probably might as well bring this out here a bit. And let's just pull this in and we can maybe turn that into some stuff. All right, so back to some commercial here. This is a little narrower than it kind of seems. So we can throw some stuff in here just to get a little coffee shop. I think these strip mall stuff actually are going to be really good. Is it these? I think there's bigger ones. Let's try lot width going. Here we go. Yep. Although these are right. These don't have their own. Oh, this one has their own parking. Okay. So let's see. Let's throw in a few of these running along here. I think will be great. And then we're going to take a parking lot alley, which is my custom alley. Is that this one? I think. Yep. And we'll run that here. Let's try that again though, because we're actually going to want to run that all the way from here to there. And then we'll take a regular alleyway and connect that into here, as well as then into here. And then we'll take some of those other, these little kind of strip mall looking things that don't have their own parking built in, and throw those in there. And yeah, I think that is already starting to get that kind of small town strip kind of thing. I think we're going to swap out some colors here. These are a little much, so let's just kind of go with, I think we're just going to go with kind of a kind of a generic white gray looking deal there. And yeah, I think we're just going to kind of take that across the board. Let's just kind of scoot these guys out and move them up a little bit. All right, so that is looking good. And then over here, let's just kind of see what other businesses. I think pretty soon here we'll swap over to the kind of vanilla. A lot of the vanilla commercial stuff is actually pretty good. When you're looking for something, I should clarify, when you're looking for something kind of generic, you know, when you just kind of need to fill space rather than make some like very specific, you know, intersection or area. This actually, with this newer building, I think, let's go over here to mixed buildings and see if we can't throw down kind of a modern looking apartment next to it. So something southwest, probably something kind of like, yeah, something like that. And then I think if we go ahead and let's see if we can match that up and kind of make these look like they're connected. I think that'll be good. Let's see if we can make that a little, is that the, no, so maybe we can't change, can we change the color of that one? I might as well make that white too. I'll make all of that white, but I wanted to take this kind of beigey color and make that white to match fully, but that's okay. All right, so that's good. I think we can maybe get a little more apartment stuff, you know, some of these smaller, these like semi-modern smaller ones along here, especially if they're mixed use. We'll go ahead and take that. Actually, you know what? I'm kind of feeling like now I'm making things a little too boring. So let's go ahead and just make all those with that red. And then we'll put parking and some detail and stuff behind there. Right, let's see. So let's also go ahead, scoot that guy over and bring that up on terrain height a little bit. Probably this to object height. No, I guess that's good. And let's go back to commercial. That is that a different one? That is. Yeah, so same, but different here, just to kind of mix those up. We've already got a lot more cars moving along though around here, so that's good. We got some reasons now for our train stop to have people coming to it. All right, let's go ahead and get us southwest and go back to the vanilla North American gas station. Always the thing so easy to forget about, but that really always looks great and makes places feel, you know, like the thing that they have. But it is easy to forget. Where is my mouse? Whoa. There it is. It wasn't showing up over the ooh. I don't know if that's the game or maybe my mouse battery's low, but it is jumping all over the place. All right. So a couple of gas stations in there. One kind of on each end of town. And then let's see what other... we're going to go low for the North American vanilla commercial. I think we're going to want to go with a little bit more bit more lot depth, something more like that, I think will get us filling this stuff up a little quicker. I don't want necessarily like a bunch of buildings as much as kind of bigger ones, I think, just to, because we are out in this area, I feel like buildings were able to take up a little more room than, you know, in a city, so they can kind of go with some bigger buildings. So yeah, that's a real row of commercial stuff right across from the train station, which works. I mean, you know, that's already doing pretty good, as far as, you know, what I had in mind. I don't want this to be really like its own. I feel like Bridgehead here, which is on fire. We have a fire station here, right? It's been a minute since I've been over here. Do we? That would be hilarious. We do. Okay, we're good. They're on it. Fire's out. Great. Good. All good. I feel like Bridgehead is a bit of its own town. You know, it's got a little bit of a, not downtown, but, you know, it's got some grid going on. I feel like this was a town that, you know, kind of got caught in between. Highland Gardens, I don't really want to be a town. I really want it to be like a strip for some residential stuff. So I don't want to get too much more with it. I think even we can maybe put some more residential in over here, actually. So let's see. I wonder if we should flatten that out. I think not. I think what we'll do is we'll take one road kind of up like this and kind of bring that down like that. And then we will take some alleyways and build these in, and we can get some homes up here on the hillside, which I think looks really nice. And then pick a house on that side, and we'll see. We'll figure out. So let's go to residential. I think we're gonna want to go with a lot depth of like 2 or 3 at the most. But let's start with 2. We'll stick with these southwest kind of homes that we have. We need to get out of North American Southwest, and just going to use the R key to get some random homes going. And we're just going to fill a bunch of these out. These real suburban-y looking houses, which is kind of what we want. And we'll worry about that little terraforming in the back here in a minute. But mostly I just want to get this stuff in, and we'll get them along the main road. I'm just going to keep using kind of some of the same here. A lot of these neighborhoods just, I have such a hard time just using the same home over and over again, because it feels like you're playing the game and you feel limited with the kind of homes, you know, how many different styles of home you have or whatever. But in reality, there's so many of these neighborhoods that just use the exact same home over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And that's actually crazy realistic, and it feels like you're being lazy in the game, but it's, I mean, I'm sure in some instances, maybe you, me, we are, but for the most part, using just the exact same building to make some of these suburban-y not row home, but rows of home type neighborhoods is, you know, is really realistic. And that looks pretty realistic. I think this does too. And I think all this stuff actually really does. Or I have no idea what I'm talking about, which is completely fair. So we'll smooth that out. Let's get this smoothed out here. And just kind of get that going back and give that a little slope. See if we can't smooth this out a little bit here. A little bit better. That looks a little weird, but maybe with some trees and some bushes and stuff. You know, actually, let's get rid of this guy. And I know, thumbs down. The home you hadn't moved into yet is gone. You'll be fine. We're gonna put in an alley here, and let's see if we can't kind of work in another row of homes here. Let's go 3 depth. Actually, you know, let's keep it with 2. I didn't realize the slope. Yeah, that'll be a little better. And just fill these in. And we'll get some on the other side too, and we'll just, I don't know, we'll either put some too deep commercial stuff on the other side of this, or maybe we just kind of do like trees and stuff and not have there be anything on this main road here. We'll get a cul-de-sac in there, and in there, and here, and here. So yeah, I think, whoops. So yeah, that's a great looking neighborhood. All right, let's get a few more commercially things in here, and then we'll do a little detailing. All right, and then on this side of town, I think let's do a little bit more commercial, and then taper that off into some industrial, just warehouse kind of stuff, not any manufacturing necessarily. We'll get, there is all this space over here. I wonder if we want any kind of a overpass there, anything on this side. I think we might just leave this as kind of wetland nature like we have over here. So let's go back up here to commercial. We're going to go back to our vanilla, and to low. And let's actually go again back to larger depth here so we can get a good size stuff in here. Try to leave a little room for some parking, although many of these assets do have their own parking, so that's not as big of an issue actually. Yeah, all right, let's just adjust this a little bit to, let's see, let's actually kind of go like that. And we might actually like, this stuff is not looking very flat. So let's just object balance this out a little bit. And we might run this road across the track and put some industry out there. Actually, I think that could be kind of cool. We'll do that here in a second. Let's just kind of move some of this stuff more into a bit of a cozier fit. And then this road is starting to look a little funky, so let's just kind of it's just the 2-lane or the 4-lane. Get that in like that, I think is fine. And oops, we'll let traffic go back to working again. And then let's look at some clean industry stuff. I feel like this kind of stuff is not so much on the main road. I mean, it is, I guess. We can just kind of be a little scarcer with this and leave a little bit more space kind of in between. Although that's very, you know what, we might stay off that side of the road just for the sake of not wanting to terraform that up too much. But I feel like this kind of manufacturing can get spread out a little more, whereas this kind of stuff tends to be a little more snug. Maybe we can sneak one in there though. Well, that got snapped up quick. Yeah, okay, this wasn't even part of the plan, but I'm kind of into this now. So let's take this road and we're gonna run it into a train crossing here, without that super weird thing in the middle. And we're gonna terraform just a little area over here, just kind of something in like that. We'll get rid of these trees. We'll go with kind of a not that big a brush. And we'll just kind of get in there. And let's clear that out. We'll fill it back in where we need. And I'm trying to think. I think maybe we switched to the alleyway about. No, I don't want that curved. I want this to be straight to here, and then I want this to curve kind of along like that. And then we're also going to take this and let's turn off snapping because I want a very particular angle there. And we turn snapping back on, and we'll draw this out about here. Yep, that is what I wanted. And then we're just going to make a little slightly more industrial than this stuff. I mean, this kind of area is all, you know, kind of interconnected just with the train track in the middle. And if you are familiar with this channel, you are familiar that I do love to run a train track through, you know, whatever I can, any kind of neighborhood or town. One of my favorite things in this map is still the train that runs through downtown of one of our Colorado towns, just right on Main Street. I think that is still really fun. So, okay, commercial, let's go. So we got big, let's go real big. Let's see if we can go clean warehouse, though. The big warehouses don't quite have the look. That one's a little better. So we'll throw one of those in. And then let's go one size smaller. And throw that in there. I want some lot, like some big yard, you know, kind of areas. So let's get into our decals and go with some big ones. Something in this kind of range. Yeah, I think for over here, we'll go with this one. Just get that in there, and then there's one that I really like. Yeah. This one I want to use just kind of on the edge here around the train track itself. Just to kind of give that. We'll actually kind of keep running with this, I think, along the train track here behind these buildings and these kind of industrial or commercial stuff, and we can run it in this narrow part right about there and have it kind of come over to this side. And I'm actually going to go through and just grab all that stuff and match it to the terrain height, and boom, now it's covering a lot more. And that is great. All right, so that's looking better. And then for the actual, the actual kind of, not courtyard's not the right word, but lot or whatever. I don't know. Words are hard and make my brain hurt. We're just going to kind of use some of this guy and just kind of fill that in like that. And we'll find a few other things we can kind of mix in. I always feel like the more of these textures you kind of blend together and kind of stack on each other, the more it just tend to feel, a little more realistic. So I know I tend to go over a lot of this kind of detailing stuff in time lapses, and I will do some of that in a minute for kind of this area, back over here. But I feel like this was not part of really my plan. We're just kind of making this up, so I might as well just go over that. I know there have been some comments about kind of walking through stuff like this, which I've done, but probably not enough. So then if you kind of end some of these paved surfaces and then kind of mix in some more, natural dirt looking ones. I like to get these kind of dirt textures in, a bit like for the first kind of row of where trees are and stuff, and then let that, kind of be, where the trees are maybe a little less dense, and then you can kind of fill that area out with denser trees, and it'll kind of hide the ground a little more. I'm just going to smooth that. Not that much. That's not smoothing. Just want to flatten that out, and then we'll actually use the smooth tool and just kind of get in there. And then if you kind of mix in some surfaces too. Well, I guess we already have these over here. Let's see if we can just drag that in like that a bit, and we're just gonna kind of drag that down like this, and we're just gonna right click to get rid of some of these points and let that get in there. And might as well just kind of get rid of some of these and drag this in, kind of use what we already have down. And then I'll go through with a bunch of trees, some big ones and some second big ones, some of the slightly not as big ones. And we can just kind of get those in there to dense this up a bit. And smaller brush. And then I'm going to go ahead with just these kind of single brush and just kind of get some trees back up in here. And actually, let's mix in some other types. I think this doesn't need to be just a pine forest, probably, in this particular area. Just probably want enough trees to kind of break some of that train sound from these businesses just a little bit. Yeah, and it's already looking pretty good. Kind of run this side up on here of this side of the track as well. Kind of give a little edge to that forest. And maybe just kind of run a little barrier of trees here for these guys. And yeah, I mean, you can already see the train coming through now. It really looks like that train has that corridor. That's just why, this is not a hot take, but that's just why I love kind of starting really with train lines that, then you build around them. And I know that's realistic, but it's a really good way to not have to jam trains into places later. And they feel kind of out of place, until you build it around them, and then suddenly this feels like this perfect little train corridor that was kind of meant to be there the whole time. So All right, great. I'm going to hop into a quick little time lapse here and just kind of detail up a little more of this area. And then we'll move over down to kind of this area under the bridge, because I think I really love this side of the bridge here, the way this is looking. I kind of want to balance that out, and we'll go from there. All right, so I filled in a little stuff between kind of the last little bit of the time lapse and now. Okay, so I filled in a little bit of stuff in between the little end of the time lapse and now. Just mostly trees, a little bit of parking, this kind of back road. Some surfaces over here, but that's really it. Everything else kind of was in the time lapse. I still need to fill this little area, but I do want to move on a little bit before we wrap up here. I do also real quick, just because I see it and it's bothering me and I can't let it go. I just need to soften that out a little bit, just because I hate that weird edge texture. Kind of make that a little smoother there. Just drives me nuts. Cool. Yeah, good enough. Fine. Great. We'll fix that or make it better later. But I wanted to scoot on over here, and in particular, looking at this. I like the way that this runs up right against the thing. I wish there was a slightly better way to do this. I think the best way to do what I actually want this to be is to use these newish narrow keys. Obviously, I don't want pedestrians here, and there probably won't be, but I think just getting these in here to at least give us, and then I didn't even force the key onto it. And then I did it on the wrong side. We'll get there. We'll get there. We're doing great. That's what happens when you stop doing something for a month. Yeah, but even that, I think, just at least gives it, because I do like the way that it kind of is jetting out into the water here. And I want to make this feel like it's a pretty built out, aspect of this, kind of the way that this does. And actually looks like we use the exact same thing here. So that was totally planned, and I meant to do all that. So we're just going to keep, I think, sticking with this in the same kind of way. We'll get the height of all these evened out here in a second, but I mostly just want to, I guess let's stick with going the right side so that things kind of match up. Like that. Yeah, I just want to build that same kind of retaining wall, key wall looking edge here. So let's go ahead now and select all of our nodes here. It looks like I actually missed there, so we'll probably end up rebuilding one of these. But we'll just grab all of these guys. And I bet I missed one in the middle here. Maybe not. Nope. And we're going to do object to height, and we're going to go right there. And I think these are all riding about the same height. To object height, and yep. All right, cool. So let's fix this. We're just going to... oh, snapping was off there for a second. And that really does not want to snap into that, which is kind of weird. Huh. So let's try and get rid of both of these, I guess, maybe. And see if we can't. So it snaps into that fine. Into there, and then... that doesn't... oh yeah, it does. That one did. Okay. And then we'll just, again, make sure that our height is good. There we go. Yeah, and so this I just wanted to look like a bit more of a... this is looking a little... probably more complicated than it needs to be. I just wanted this to look like the same kind of thing we had going on the other side where, this is a some sort of built out landfill kind of thing, or just wherever they, wanted to make sure that this was... why is this being so weird? I don't know why I asked why this game is being weird anymore. It seems like kind of a dumb question at this point, but because of the way that it is the answer. Cool. Super cool. Okay, so anyway, we've been here the whole time and absolutely nothing happened. Everything was fine with the game. So let's just keep going through here, and I want to obviously smooth out this land a little bit here, and just make this nice and even, and kind of actually like that there's a little slope there to the road. Just bring all of this down. That slope kind of evens itself out down here. We might even make this a park. I know it's like by the train area, but I feel like sometimes some of those spaces get, I don't know, like it was an old factory or something that kind of gets turned into some public space. But under here, I definitely want this to kind of mimic this kind of industry looking thing that we have going on. I really love in this whole thing, this shot right here, especially with the subway coming out. I just am such a big fan of all of this, and I want to kind of replicate it on the other side in one way or another with some industry and stuff. So obviously we don't want that guy quite right there. So there we go. Move that off to the side. All right, so that's okay for now. I also wonder if we end up taking this above and having this cross over rather than under, but we'll come back to that another time. I think right now I want to focus on this. So let's go ahead and clear out all of these trees, at least right in this immediate area. Probably right to about there, I think is good. And then probably we'll take some alleyways. Actually, let's start with what we want to put down, because I think sometimes I get in this like put roads down that don't always make the most sense for what I want to plop, and then the thing I plop has to get adjusted, or I'm limited by it or whatever. So let's actually start with some buildings, whether they're the actual ones or if they're some of these static ploppables. And I'm leaning, I want to look here first, but I am actually leaning towards the static ploppables because I almost feel like something that's more of like a brick kind of, like a industrial warehouse brick kind of thing that might end up being actually like one of these northeastern, like not that, something like more like this. Yeah, like I think I want something like that down here. No, not these kind of gentrified ones. Not sure about. I think something like this could be really interesting. I mean, that does look fairly residential. That a little less so. So what if we kind of had a couple of these down here in a way that felt like some sort of old factory, and let's see if we can match. I don't like that pink. Oh boy. Let's see, can we do anything about that? Kinda. It's gonna have to be a little more. These are gonna be tough to match, unfortunately. Maybe we can make this one a little more red. That I think could be white actually, to try to match that. And then there we go. That's a little closer. Maybe make that a slightly more red and less orange. There we go. Okay, those match now. Yeah, I mean, this with these awnings, I wonder, I doubt it, but let's see. Can we? No, I thought maybe we could get rid of just those awnings, but that's not going to work. But that's okay. I think that's good for there. And then let's do some actual industry with, let's see. We can kind of tuck something like this right under here so that this overpass feels like, this train overpass actually feels like it's elevated a little more intentionally. Okay, now I think we can maybe get some roads in. So we'll do an alleyway to about here. And then we connect it up, kind of starting like that, I think, will be good. And that should connect this guy to, yep, okay, to power and stuff. And then let's just take a little, so we just have the road and a couple of things around it, and then lots of, I think the thing that really sells this is there's lots of detail going on. I think in the areas that are really easy to see, obviously, like the more you pack in, the better. And then the other stuff you can do a little lighter on some of that detail. And then I want to do, let's just do clean here. Although I wouldn't be so opposed to actually, I generally don't like all the chimneys, but this could actually, I could see this being a place that works a little better, kind of like we've got going on over here. See if we can fit this in. Boy, sometimes these really just do not want to rotate onto the street you really want them to go onto. But yeah, I think we can tuck that in there. I like this to be kind of a courtyard, or not courtyard, but a industrial yard area. And probably get something like this back in here, maybe. And get a bit of a road going like that. And this can kind of come up to this street here. And let's try for some warehouse stuff. Just some little... Let's actually get another alley. We'll just continue this right along the pillar of the bridge here. Like that. And then this can connect to there. I think that works. And then we can kind of get some little stuff tucked in here. And I think what we're going to end up doing as I'm looking at it is I think this little, I like the elevation change here, but I think the slope is going to be weird. So let's go ahead and give this a right side or key wall, I think, on this. Like that, I think just is going to make a little more sense for this kind of sunken industrial area. Let's see. We want it up on this side, but we want it down. We want all this to be flat. Yeah, I think that's going to be way better for this. All right, let's go ahead and... There's a few more things. Let's go back and look at our static ploppables and see if there's something, you know, this is kind of interesting. I think this is a fire station, but it almost looks like a little service station out of context. So let's throw that down kind of in this. I think I just grabbed the bridge. Yep. And this guy down just kind of out in this to make it look a little more random. Actually, I think we should also give this a key on both sides just for there, and hopefully we can get rid of that. Of course not. Why would we be able to do that? That would make sense. Whoa. Is there a node in there? There is. Okay. So there's a node we don't even want in there. There we go. Yeah, that makes this a nice little ramp. We can actually maybe put this kind of over here and make that a little courtyard area. Courtyard is just the wrong word, and I keep saying it. Let's just go ahead and get some more of these small warehouse industrial looking buildings in kind of wherever we can fit them, tucked in into here. Let's straighten that out, I think. Thank you for bearing with my very real-time train of thought here. I had a bit of a vision for this when I did it. This, I just wanted to do something similar, and I did not think a ton about exactly what that meant. I'm going to go back over here and see if we can't find... Yep, there it is. Because I don't want this to really have to be beholden to a road. And object height, we want to make that the same as there. There we go. And I think we should probably add the key wall to this as well. And we can smooth that out. All right, I think honestly that's a pretty good start. Let's go. I'm gonna go ahead and just get a little bit of surface stuff in here, and then we might come back and wrap this up next time, which I promise will be soon, not in 3 weeks, like I said last time. So yeah, we'll go ahead with some surfaces, I think, for this big area. And there is a little bit of node jank going on here, and I'm afraid to touch it because the game definitely did not crash a few minutes ago when I was doing that over here. I don't know what you guys thought you saw, but you didn't see it. So we'll see if we can't hide that with a totally makes sense for this location tree. There could be trees here. There's going to be trees here. There'll be trees here. There's trees. So I don't think this texture, I don't think I can put under this because, yeah, unfortunately this one goes over everything. So I think we'll get some decals in here, which will be good anyway, to show a little bit of the, you know, more rundown industrial look. So I think, like, especially under here, we can even get some of this kind of dirt in. It doesn't even have to be concrete, but I do want to use this guy a bunch. I really like this one. It just stacks, like, it layers really well. If you rotate it, it kind of looks random enough that you can't really see the edge of it, and you're able to cover a lot of large area with it. So it's really good for that. And we'll probably use it a bit down here as well. For in here, let's go with something a little more, yeah, something like this I think will be good. That feels like a good place for that. Let's see what else we can. This, maybe, do we need to flatten any of this out? I thought we did. Oh, it looks like we're getting a little bit of, make sure that this is all nice and flat when we get these decals in here. It's the only problem with the decals. Nope. And we can just raise that back up or push it down. Down was the right move. There it is. All right, and then this one can go down a little bit to actually land where we want. And we can just fill. This is another one I really like that just covers a lot of ground, and even though it's not as like soft at the edge, it's not hard to kind of avoid it feeling too repetitive. So I'm just going to use this along to about there. So, you know, I mean, even without the detailing in, I think, you know, we're really off to a pretty good start here. We'll get to a lot more of the details next time, especially the props and all that, but get rid of the floating tree. But I wanted to get, whoops, let's see. I wanted to just kind of get an idea for what this could look like. So yeah, I think we'll stop there for today. Thanks everyone for sticking with me and coming back after a bit of a hiatus. Like I said, traveling and just being out of town, and you know, it's the time of year. It gets real hot here in the summer, and I tend to not go out too much. But now that it's not just baking you at 100 degrees every day, it's a little easier to be outside. So I've been doing a bit of that. Touching grass never hurts. But yeah, thanks so much for watching as always, and being part of whatever, you know, we're doing here. And if you're new, if you're just finding this, I don't know, maybe the algorithm will have shared this with some new folks after I'd kind of been away for a bit. Thanks for joining, and like I said, we'll definitely, this kind of downtime is not going to be the norm overall. So please come back next time, and the time after that, and the time after that. So anyway, I'll stop talking. Thanks a lot, and we'll see everyone next time. Bye.